Hello and welcome to my session today. So it's called Never Hustle, taking it down a notch to sell your solution. So when I thought about this, it seems like this is the holy grail of doing sales magic. And when I was approached by UPPSTART and Jason to do this keynote, I looked at the agenda and what everyone else is preparing. And I noticed that most of the sessions today are about finding the most clever solution, about doing the startup grind and so on. And I thought, okay, when it comes to sales might be a bit different when it comes to this. So I decided to do the opposite. Instead of talking about doing more and more and more, I thought about, let's name it the opposite. And let's talk about to never hustle again. And I did this, and basically my head was blank. But then I came up with a presentation on how to do so. Before I start, let me give you a little disclaimer here. So most of the things I'm going to talk about are based on research. Some things are based on personal experience. A lot of things are based off observation and might contain some exaggerations along the way. My name is Dennis Birkolzer. I work as a consultant for SpinLab, the HHL accelerator. We focus on early stage energy, health, and smart city startups. I also work for the DMS accelerator. It's acceleration program focused on European data-centric startups and SMEs, and it's funded by the European Commission. I work in sales now for 10 years. I started to work in pre-sales at IBM 10 years ago as a working student. And since then, I did also work in marketing, product management, and mostly for IT and B2B companies. And today I'm going to share you the experience I personally made when working for B2B startups, but also the experience of the observation I made while coaching startups in the acceleration programs that I work for. I coached more than 100 startups in the past 3 years, and these are my findings that I have. So let's dive right in. When you think about a salesperson, it's like this annoying person disturbing you in your daily routine, wanting to sell you something. I don't have to deal with that much sales manager, but I see the other side, which are like the founders who need to deal with a lot of rejections along the way, and it feels like doing sales is really, really hard to do so. So when then I looked into studies, and I saw that working in sales are at some point as stressful as working as a heart surgeon. So now I thought, okay, this does not need to be. So this is not how people should be treated, how people should be work in an environment where their work is not life dependent for other people. So then I thought to myself, okay, how does the typical life cycle of a salesperson look like? So when, for my opinion, over the time that a person works for a company, there are like 3 essential stages that every person in a company has to go through. The first, of course, is the onboarding, so getting into the company. The second part is the longest period that a person has in engagement with a company, and that's the actual execution, that's the work that is done by this person. And at the end of this whole life cycle of a person within a company, there's the offboarding phase, where a person might leave the company because of age, because of changing the company, or for whatever reason. And throughout these 3 phases, I made out 4 factors that change over the time. The first one is the knowledge. When a person comes into a company, it's all about being onboarded in a steep curve of what this company stands for, what the solutions look like, and how to deal with every aspect within a company. It ramps up to some level, and then the person needs to get on the field, and when doing the execution, when talking to potential customers, the knowledge is going up because of the experience people are having in the field. But at some point, it just comes to a steady level where there's nothing new to learn over a period of time. or people don't want to learn more about the actual solution and the customer relationships. Maybe a salesperson builds up their accounts and just keeps them, and there's nothing new to educate them with. On the other hand, there's of course the motivation. When a person is entering, most feel very, very excited, getting to know this new exciting company, getting to know your colleagues, the awesome solution, the value proposition, and so on in the onboarding phase. So it's getting more and more fun all the way. But when it comes to execution, we see a valley. And this is where the first person, the first prospect is saying no to you. So you get out there in the field and the first person says, I'm not interested in your solution. And your motivation really drops down into this valley of desperation. But over time, of course, during the time of execution, you are finding like a notion how to deal with the people closing deals, and the motivation goes up and up and up during the execution phase till it reaches a certain point of motivation, and then the motivation goes down, leading of course to the offboarding, because at some point you might not care anymore about the work that you're doing. You somehow get satisfied. There is a point where it doesn't really matter what you do. You seem somehow content with the things that you do. And when you offboard, at some points, the motivation might go to zero when it comes to working for a specific startup, for a specific solution, because why should you care anymore? A thing that correlates with the motivation is, of course, the perceived pressure. The perceived pressure, there is no really that big of pressure in the onboarding phase. There might be some expectations to you, and as you onboard into the company, getting to know all the awesome things you do, and of course also the targets that you have, the pressure is going up and up and up. And when you reach the execution phase, you see that it negatively correlates with the motivation curve. It peaks when the first customer says no. There is like the biggest expectation. You're going out to the field, need to close customer, then the first customer says no, and you are devastating. There's so much perceived pressure. You've wasted your time in educating yourself, but the customer says no. The perceived pressure is going down with the motivation going up. So you're getting motivated again. You don't perceive this much pressure for the work you do, and you somehow again become content with the work that you do. And the pressure is going down and down and down until you don't care anymore. Then you see a peak in the offboarding phase where this red curve is going up again. Maybe there's some lawsuit because you didn't do that much good of work, but it always negatively correlates with the motivation that you have. And the most important thing is, of course, the performance of the person. You are steadily improving within a good company with feedback phases and feedback loops and so on, where the performance goes up and up and up, peaks at the highest point of your motivation, the highest point of your knowledge, and the lowest point of your perceived pressure. And then the performance goes down until the offboarding phase because you don't care anymore. As a startup, you want to, of course, have the people at the highest point of their performance, with the highest point of leisure, with the highest point of knowledge, with the highest point of motivation, in the lowest point of perceived pressure. You try to avoid educating the people all of the time. You try to avoid the churn rate within your startup. So you need to find a way to make the onboarding phase as short as possible so that people can work on their best performance. And of course, this is like the holy grail on how to do so, how to onboard motivated people within your company. And the most essential thing here is, of course, the product market fit. So to make it easy, comprehensible, what is the solution you are selling to a specific market? And Stephen J. Blank from Stanford University wrote an awesome book onto this, The 4 Steps to the Epiphany, where he observed successful companies. And there he saw that there are like the 4 steps to the epiphany, which is called the customer development model, where you, of course, first discover potential customers, you validate the customer, then you create a paying customer, and then you build up the company based on the value creation that you offer to a specific customer. But what does it mean in detail? The first phase, it's all about finding out to whom your solution is actually available in talking to potential customers, not in a sales way, but in a way that educates yourself, where you're actively listening to the feedback on the value proposition that you have. In the second phase, you come out with your findings from the first phase, where you know, okay, this might be a perfect prospect for me, where there's a fit of the value proposition that I have to a potential customer, and then you validate this. You see, you are going out to the research target audience and see if your proposed value proposition is actually of value to the audience that you're addressing to. And then you validate this. If you cannot validate this, if the prospect is saying no, then you reshape the value proposition for this specific target audience. You never change the product, you just work on the value proposition that you have for your target audience. After this, that you have your validated value proposition, you then can go out and close the customers to create your potential customers and to actually then build up on your company, because customer creation means getting revenue and getting money within the company to then scale your business. Of course, there needs to be a clear and defined structure on how to do this. So how you're going to approach the customer. There needs to be a lot of research done. There is some techniques that I will talk about later, but you have to do the right research and who to address with which kind of value proposition, which you need, of course, to validate in order to have a good product market fit for people to reach out and do the customer building in the final step. There are research about your potential target audience raise your sales effectiveness by some kind of percentage. A few years ago, a McKinsey study showed that it was 20%. I think this has changed a little bit, but I didn't find the current status. And there are things that you can, of course, automate during the process. The initial outreach can be automated with CRM solutions via social networks and so on. But you need to be clear in how to define your processes and how to build up your funnel, and to be aware that there are certain stages that each of your prospects need to go to. There are multiple value propositions. There's not one single value proposition being valid for all the personas, for all the different target audience you have when reaching out. And one essential thing to find this out is the social skills. You need to listen a lot. It's not about being the bull at the gate. It's about finding out where the real value for your potential customer is. You need to build up trust as you read a lot. You need to create some kind of FOMO to getting them closer to sign a deal. But it's really about being sure where your value is for a certain kind of target audience that you have validated, of course, in the steps before. I wrote an article on actually how to hack cold calling, so to how build these kind of trust and relationship building in a fast lane that you can find at datamarketservices.eu. It's about how to hack cold calling, of course. But in order to do so, you need to be very, very sure about, again, the product market fit. When it comes to processes, tracking and follow-ups are very essential. Most of the companies, in order to do so, have got a customer relationship system in place, a CRM system, which it helps you to track the potentials, to track the deals, to track how to proceed with which kind of prospect within an account that you're trying to connect with, and really guides you through the process. It is essential to track everything, to set yourself tasks on when to follow up. Of course, also about at which time, through which channel. Is it the phone? Is it an email? Might it be even WhatsApp or LinkedIn? Ask the prospect how they want to be contacted. And what is very, very essential when it comes to tracking and follow-up, be sure about if a prospect is a qualified sales opportunity. This is very, very essential. You find here the four letters BANT. They stand for budget. Does the person have the money? Authority, is the prospect that I'm talking to actually the right person to make a decision? Need, is there a pain that I can solve with my solution? So is there a match between my value proposition and the actually issue at the customer side? And time, when can we continue? That's it. When it comes to this qualification criteria, they might not fit all to one person. Maybe these criteria are valid for 3 people, where one has got the budget, one is the authority, one's got the need, and the other is deciding on to do the actual project with you. So make it simple to yourself. Try to qualify the person you are talking to as soon as possible to not waste your time. Frame it like a discovery call, make it clear to the person that you want to check if it's the right fit with you. So even be transparent in how to do so. Tell them that you are trying to find if it's the right fit, to not waste anybody's time here. And what I've seen with most of the startups, that they are trying to be, that they're way too shy to actually do this in a bold way, in a transparent way, to communicate also in this qualification criteria, where they're having like a nice conversation, they're building, like I said before, a nice relationship, a trustworthy relationship, but they never ask if this person is right to decide, or if he or she actually has got the budget to continue with you. So please, even if it might feel uncomfortable in the first calls, please ask the person, do you have the budget to do so? If not, who does the decision on this budget for my proposed project with you? Coming back to processes, there are, of course, also internal processes. It's about feedback loops. It's about honesty. I worked in sales organizations, and working with salespeople is always a hustle, because everyone is like, of course, the best in their field, closing a lot of deals, and salespeople tend not to be honest in this way when things go wrong. Yeah, I will close this client in the next month. Yeah, we were so close. We are currently negotiating. Please, founders, salespeople, be honest when discussing this with your team. You're all in the same boat. So maybe there's another person that could help you with a difficult client, with a difficult question. You don't need to address everything on your own. There are colleagues there to help you with. And also this internal feedback, not only talking with other salespeople, but also with your product development team or the project managers or customer success manager, help you also to revise your communication strategy. Share what's working and find the reason why. Share what's also not working and try to find the reason why, in order to revise your strategy, in order to go better. Maybe it's a communication, maybe it's also like the product roadmap, where you need to postpone some issues and build some features even sooner than planned before, because there's now a more pressing need on the market. And make the sales process very iterative. Don't meet just once a year to do your yearly targets. Try to meet every week for a short review. Try to do a sales meeting in a bi-weekly way, and try to keep the sales process iterative. Maybe try some campaigning, where do some outreach with a special value proposition to a very special kind of target audience, and really try to try out a lot of things to find not only the best strategy in value proposition communication, but also for yourself, because every person is unique. Every person's got their own way of selling stuff, of approaching customers, and it's all about finding the way that you feel much comfortable with. That's how you are never going to hustle. And never forget to add a value proposition at the end of every pitch. I've seen a lot of pitch deck missing a value proposition. To be an example myself, my value proposition for you is to add me on LinkedIn. And I hope that you have fun with my presentation, and I'm happy to connect with you, maybe to discuss business opportunities to help you in your sales strategy. As working for an acceleration program, we are always looking for interesting energy, health, and smart city startups from all over the world, not only Europe. So I'm happy to connect with you. My name is Dennis Birkolzer, and thank you very much for your attention today.